Hi everyone, happy Sunday. It's Janet Wakeland here with Remarkably Created, and tonight's video is going to focus on some treat ideas, some gift giving ideas for you for the holidays, as well as a really fun, simple tip with your Big Shot dies. And we'll also review a tip from a previous video. So it's that time of year when you want to always have small little treats available, maybe for the postal clerk, for the waitress when you go out for a nice dinner along with your tip, for the secretaries, for somebody at school, the bus driver, lots of people that we would like to have a small little gift for. One of my favorite small little gifts are Ghirardelli's, and especially the peppermint bark this time of the year. I love the shape and size of this packaging. It makes it really, really easy to gift. So this is where the idea for tonight's project came from, was wrapping this little box. I will show you two other ideas that fit inside of the packaging that I'm going to present. So as you're showing up and as we're getting ready to start, comment below with whether or not your tree is up and decorated or you don't have your tree up yet. So my tree is up, but it is not decorated. So let's jump in and let's take a look at this packaging. So when I wanted to wrap this, creating a pretty little edge for anything that's greater than 2 inches wide is a little challenging. Our tag toppers only go to 2 inches, and this is 3 inches wide. So I needed a way to decorate the tops of these. I wanted the tops of my packaging to have a real pretty little edge, a real pretty look, to look like the tag toppers, okay? But again, our tag topper punches only go to 2 inches. So how are we going to achieve this look? Well, what you're going to do in this case, my packaging is 3 inches by 12 inches. The size of your packaging, the width of your package can vary. It's going to determine the dies that you use, however, okay? So all I did was I folded it in half, and I did not bring my scoring blade to the table, but we're going to give it a nice score. And then the dies that I'm going to work with, at least for the most part tonight, are the hippo dies. I can't live without these dies. I absolutely love them. You probably have gotten sick of me talking about them, but I just think that they're absolutely amazing. So let's go ahead and let's just grab this die right here and this die to showcase what I want to talk to you about. You have to use a die that is a little bit wider than your paper, okay? So in this case, this die is too small, okay? This die fits perfectly for 3 inches. We've got rectangles and circles and squares. Like this one is actually a little big. I could actually have a little bit larger piece of paper. So again, depending on the width, you want a die that your paper is going to slip through. And what you're going to do is the die cutting side down, I'm going to go over and under so that the die cutting side is only on one part. I don't have, oops, sorry about that. I don't have any risk of cutting down here because my paper is against the flat surface. I'm only going to cut that top piece right there. So let's go ahead and put this in our little machine. I'm using the standard size die cut and emboss. And we're just going to kind of balance that on both sides. Here I'm going to get picky. And I'm just going to put that down, and it's going to jiggle for just a second. And let's just back it out. And when I pull that up, now I've got that pretty edge. And that works for any, like our circles, our squares, our scallop squares, our seasonal labels. All of those are going to work to give you that pretty look. Again, the trick, die cutting side down, your paper goes over one edge, and then you only are cutting with one edge. Does that make sense? Does that help just a little bit? So that is part of my tip. That's kind of the one tip that I really, really wanted to give you to showcase these fun, beautiful edges. Then, when you're trying to make a flat bottom for your treat, if you know the width, in this case, this is 1 inch, on either side of the center mark, I'm going to score 1/2 inch. Now I have 1 inch across, okay? And I'm going to be able to set my box down inside there It's gonna fold up on either side, and now I'm gonna have my treat. When I'm not constantly removing the treat to showcase samples for all of you guys, I do run a piece of sticky strip down that packaging. And again, that allows that then to stay nice and tight, and it's not gonna constantly be pulled out, okay? So let's look at a couple of ideas and then a few more ideas for packaging. So here is another one of those tags. And again, this treat would easily fit right inside. Another benefit of this is if you're traveling for the holidays, you can take some sticky strip with you and your treats, travel with these nice and flat so they don't get damaged, and then assemble them when you get to where you're going. So here we have this pretty one. Look at this one here. And this one I'm going to showcase something else for you here in just a second, just to kind of give you a couple bonus tips. I told you I'd review one. So to the coolest friend. And this is a great way to use up long strips of paper, that 12 by 12 designer paper that you have around. But let me showcase this tip for you because this tag does open. And as well as on this card, all of my tags tonight open. Oops, there we go. So they all open. So the way that that's going to work is you're going to grab a piece of cardstock, and this is a previous tip that I shared with you. And you're just going to fold that in half, give it a nice crease, and then you're going to grab any die that you want. Now in this case, I only wanted my tag to be this short, but I wanted it to be this wide. So when I cut now, it's going to cut across that crease, and that's what gave me this size right here with all the stitched marks around it. I can also use a much smaller die or the entire die just across the fold as I did here. So in this case, the die underneath here goes just past that fold, and that's a tip that I shared in a previous video for you. So those are two ideas there. And let me give you another one. How about our Sweet Santa? And I love the black and red and the boldness of that. And it kind of goes with the red paper on the side. And again, this tag opens. I used the hippo tag, then a smaller one inside for my message. So we have that fun one. This is another one. Again, it doesn't have to just be rectangles or something that's tag shaped. The baubles was cut on that fold. And again, this is another one that looks real good with the shiny side of those peppermint treats. And then just to show you, of course, this was the one that you saw that I haven't decorated yet. I just wanted it plain so you could really see it. And whether you put a slot at the top and your ribbon all the way down and around, whether you just tie your ribbon right to the top. In this case, I put the ribbon the whole way around and then just tied the tag to the ribbon here. Or you simply just put a little bit of ribbon at the top, tying it shut. There's so many possibilities, guys. But let's also talk about another possibility for inside. There are different types of cellophane packaging out there. You can check the big box stores and sometimes even pre-packaged treats at the different gift shops and bakeries and things like that. Look real pretty, kind of coming through the top. And so here's a fun little treat for little pet owners. And instead of putting any stamped image, I simply just cut woof. Trust me, each dog will know exactly what that means and that this packaging is for them. A little white velvet there for the hat, and you've got a sweet little gift to give. So that one's fun. And then down here in Louisiana, in New Orleans, we have this really cool treat. My son works for a company called Sazerac. He does distill whiskey, or bourbon actually. And one of the flavored creamers that Sazerac makes is something called pralines and cream. It's one of the few things that I actually will put in my coffee. It's a praline liqueur and cream. It's absolutely amazing. And this year, for the first time ever, they have the small little, I call them stocking stuffer sizes. And so I scooped a bunch of those up to use as gifts. This is sticky stripped to the back of this product. So, you know, a trip to your favorite beverage shop will turn up some great little jars that would also fit perfectly in here. And then I just went ahead and put the ribbon through the top. And then again, this tag also opens as well. And again, just a 3" by 12" strip. Of course, you would adjust if you need your paper a little longer. If you need your paper a little longer, I always recommend overlapping it on the bottom, because that seam then is not going to be seen. And but most things are 3 by 12, so very, very easy, fun way to decorate. And then just real quick, one more time as that review, to get your fancy tops on anything that is wider than our 2" tag toppers, you're going to use a die, and your paper has to be able to fit through the die. You're going to go over this flat surface and under the cutting surface, over and under, and then you're going to run it through, and you're going to end up with the fancy top. Of course, if I wanted stitch marks on the top of something, you've got, you know, something that much wider. So we do have some wider label dies that would work for you too. So grab those dies, grab some fun packaging, and just decorate away this holiday season. Lots of great ways to give a thoughtful gift without breaking the bank, guys. Happy holidays.